All right. There we go. So today we're going to talk about classes in Swift. And you already know classes now in Java and C# and Ruby. So it shouldn't be too much more difficult. So I'm going to create a new file here. And we'll call it animal. I want a Swift file. And we'll call it animal.swift.
The Swift file will be the extension of the file that we'll use to turn in, right? It'll be a
Yes.
.swift file.
Yes. All right. So it creates a little Swift. It puts up your a header and imports the foundation. So to do an animal, it works very similar. We use the keyword class and a capital animal. And then we can add properties to this animal. So we might have legs as of type int, and there's 4 of them. We might, what? Oh, I'm sorry.
Creating file, Swift file in OS X or?
Oh yeah, OS X command line, right?
Yes. Yeah, our whole project is an OS X command line project, yeah. You had a question, Nathan?
Oh yeah, so I added admin privileges and I don't. Like I see it just looked, it said admin and then I looked again and I'm not.
They're working on these
You were
scripts.
here yesterday.
They said yesterday that it's a
So I gotta restart.
2 scripts are conflicting with each other, and they run these scripts every so often during the day. So, sorry.
Computer next to you might.
Well, it said admin.
If it doesn't have Xcode
It
on
just took it
I
away.
got, yeah, it was like admin.
Letters, the right of file structure mean M and A.
This means when you created a project, the default is to make a Git repository, GIT repository, which is a source control program we're going to learn in Agile. But so these letters means that it's been modified, and this one means that it needs to be added to the repository, A. If I commit these changes, it'll change these all to
So it
something
automatically
C.
wants to put it on Git?
Yeah. Not on GitHub, on a local Git repository.
Okay.
Yeah. So that you can save your changes all the time. We're just not doing that. I can say commit and write my commit message here and say commit.
Yeah.
And so now it took it away, everything is happy. But as soon as I type something, it's going to change that. If I save the file, it'll show that it's been modified eventually. Here, there it goes. So we're going to have a color. It's a type string with nothing in it. All right, so those are global properties, more or less, for a particular instance of an animal. So if I were to instantiate it, which means to create an animal from this class, it would have these default values automatically set for it. Does that make sense so far? So to create an animal, let's comment all of this out. All this good stuff that we
Your
wrote.
questions every time?
I don't. We can create a variable called zebra, and we call the animal class.
Kind of the .new it or anything?
No. But we don't have an initializer yet. But this actually creates it, and let's not puts it. Let's do a zebra and run it. So it printed out animal, not much use yet. Okay, so that's the most basic type of an animal. I could say legs, right away, that should have 4 in it, right? Because by default, the animal had had 4 legs in it. Let's, can I split these? Their IDE is not nice. I'm telling you.
It's such a big program, you think it would be.
I know, you think it'd be good, but they typically have not had good developer tools since I played with them. So anyway, so our animal by default, if we create it, the default constructor is nothing. But we can create constructors as well to add properties as we build the object. So to do that, we use a keyword init, which is a little bit like Ruby. And we can say we can pass in some legs that's an int. We can pass in the name, which is a string type, and we can pass in the color, which is a string type. And then inside of that, we can take these values and assign them to the local properties, right? So the problem is, if I do this,
Put an underscore before.
it says that you can't assign it because legs is a constant, a let constant. They're thinking I'm assigning it back to this. There's no distinction. So the problem with doing the Java way by putting like an underscore here is that when I create it now, I have to, that works, it stores it now in the legs property of the object. But as I create it, let's see, it's not going to show in the first one. Let's do this, name and color. I have to use those values. I have to say, what was the first thing here? Legs. I'd have to say for and name equals Zach and color equals red. So this is not as nice to have to put an underscore in. Oh, it's not equals. It's
Oh, and you have to put.
and you have to put those in when we're calling methods that have more than one in it, more than one parameter.
Simply because that's what you called them in your class?
Right.
Okay.
That's what I named my parameters in my class, so I have to use that here. So that's not as nice to type that, right? So I'd rather do this, have named parameters like this, but then in my setup over here, still use name, but we can use self here. And that will,
Okay.
that does the same thing like this in Java. So I can do self.name equals name, self.color equals color. All right, so that will create an object with all of these properties initialized, and I can use the real names of the projects, the properties over here.
What if you wanted to give it legs but no color? Would name default to what you have it in your class as?
Yes,
The empty string?
yes, but my initializer has additional properties
Oh, you only
required,
have the one
right?
initializer.
So it says you don't have a name here, so I can't do that.
You'd have to make another initializer.
So I have to make another initializer, which is also strange. I can say init with just legs. And say self.legs equals legs.
so it'd be much easier just to use one initializer and pass in empty strings.
I think so.
Otherwise,
So,
you'd have to make like 10 of them if you wanted all the
yes,
combinations.
yes. So, let's see, cow. And I should be able to say legs for. And the name property then would be blank, right? Because I didn't initialize that. Cow dot name is going to print nothing. So I've got 4 legs and nothing here. If I want to change a property, I can do that just by accessing the value and setting it. So there's no requirement for creating a setter in this case. Yep.
To populate, like say we want to populate zebra with user input, would we need to declare just a zebra and then populate like zebra.legs equals whatever the user?
No, we could do, let's use my little get string here. Don't I have a nice get string? Let's do, it's all right.
I'm sorry, I thought you were looking for.
I'm just trying to add in back. Oh, I did it the wrong way, of course. Trying to add back in my functions here. This guy. So now I've got my functions back. I can do legs equals get. We want to get a double because I wrote legs. So, and we'll say something like print how many legs. Get the legs, print.
And you're just making legs a double so they don't do the point whatever, so it'll just.
Because that's the only one I have, I think. Do I have a get int?
Yeah, you have a get
Oh, I do have a get int.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe he's only got half a leg.
It's not like it.
Okay. Color, and we'll say let legs equals get string. And then, oh, I can't use legs, obviously, color. Then I can use these variables in place of this, right? This is the same thing. Color is going to be color.
Then you'd be back in the same boat of having to check the user input because users are
Yes,
notoriously.
sure. Stupid.
I
You
know
can say
Dave
it.
always checks.
I always do. Not when I'm lecturing, but when I write real code, I do.
I mean, on our assignments.
Oh,
He'll-
yes.
he'll check to see
That too.
if,
I do check. Yes, yes. So now I can run this, and it will get data then from the user, and he's got 6 legs, and he's pink, and so it'll create a zebra with that property. Now, one nice thing, we can use the debugger just like other languages. I can set breakpoints here. And delete the breakpoints. You can enable and disable them, but that doesn't remove it. You have to remove it. So now if I run it, it will stop on the print here, and I can inspect my zebra and look at it. So how many legs? He's got 5 legs, and he's whatever color he wants to be. And now I can look at my variables and look at zebra And you can see he's got 5 legs, and his name is Zach, and he's got a color here. Okay, so
I see that.
we can use that. I can't make that any bigger. That's pretty tiny. I wish I could. Nope. So I can look at all the values inside of this this property here, this object. So my cow doesn't have anything because I created him. Well, he hasn't been created yet, actually. So we can step over each one just like before. Now my cow has 4 legs but still no name. I set the color to blue. That set the color, and we can walk through and look at the data there. And it breaks into, you guys know what this is? It's assembly language.
Oh,
This is
wow.
the lowest level code, and actually some people write in this.
Wait, how did you get to that?
And it's just because I stepped over, and this is the next step
You have no
outside the
notes.
program. And so this is like a memory address, and this is saying call this function at this memory address,
Oh my God.
and it's really painful. I
Assembly's not
hate it.
object-oriented, is it?
No.
Oh,
You're
God.
dealing with bytes and
It doesn't
bits
even have
and
these
no, they're go-tos, basically.
go-tos and labels.
It's not a fun,
Why does it ever have?
but
Yeah.
some people still think you can get your best optimized code by writing in assembly. So some games do that. They write pieces of their game in assembly. The problem is the compilers these days are so efficient that they write really good code. They're taking your text and they're compiling it into those instructions. And there's a whole science to compiler creation, but they've gotten so good that there's no reason to do it anymore, in my humble opinion.
You're not gonna be able to write better code than.
I don't think so.
It's just a waste of time.
I think so. All right. So, but there's some diehards, that learned programming in the 50s. And that's the only thing they could do. Like Tom. Yeah.
It's like Tom.
So, any questions on that? So we've got, yeah.
That is kind of topic question, but where it says, when you ask the question, how many legs, is there any way to get what you type right after the semicolon? Like in Ruby, it would be a put instead of.
Yeah, I know. I knew somebody was going to ask me that, and haven't found an answer
okay.
yet. I have not found an answer. They used to have in Swift 1 a concept of a print and a print line, which made sense, right? Print line added a character return to the other, but they've deprecated it and renamed it. So I don't know how we do that.
Of course, everybody was too familiar with it, they had to change
I know.
it up.
Why
Can we
change it?
print an empty line? Or will it just go on the same line next, like?
It'll go to the
printing
next line. If I just do a print like this.
So, well, I meant like print and then in you get just an empty string. Would that just print a line, an
Yeah.
empty string line? and
Yes.
And then character
Looks like I
returns.
have to print something.
then- Okay, so it won't.
So that'll print a character return. So that doesn't
So that gives us
help
two
us
after the-
too, yeah. So now my cursor's down here.
Okay.
So it's okay, let's start up again. All right, so we can make properties, we can initialize it different ways, and now it would be nice if we could print out our animal like a toString in Java or Ruby, right? So they have a method called description that lets us, which is a lot like a toString. And it returns a string, same thing, and we can return a string that does something. This is something like, we could put our name, remember our interpolation, that's the variable name, has legs, and is color.
So is description a method that you're overriding?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if I just say print my cow and my zebra, it should call that description method. And it did not. Why did it not?
Running into brick walls.
I know, one
Every
thing,
line of code is
one
like
thing, and
an
it's a pain, it's a painful thing.
I use these moments at home.
Do you?
When I'm struggling, I'm like, it's okay.
It's okay, Dave has the same
Dave
problems.
has problems every now
I was
and
thinking
then.
that when I was failing to install the Mac.
So let's say, we can explicitly call it.
I expect a lot of issues with install.
That should work.
Not all these issues with just running basic.
That works.
Yep, that works.
What'd you do? How'd you fix it?
Yeah, just
So I forced it to call description.
Oh, you just.
Maybe that wasn't the built-in. Maybe that was one that I wrote. That was a couple of weeks ago that I did that one.
because it didn't.
Yeah, it's not-
description wasn't like a color.
No,
It didn't color
and
code
so it's
it.
not overriding a
Okay.
description. So I wrote my own, apparently, my own method here called description, and I think I wouldn't normally make it capital. I don't know why I did that. That just looks weird. So that lets me print off whatever I want from, that's just another method now in my animal class so I can write any kind of methods I want, just like other languages. So any questions on that?
Seems easy enough.
Pretty straightforward. I don't have to write getters or setters. I showed you the setter. I don't have to write getters. I could just say print cow dot color, and that is a getter automatically for me. So all of the properties that I define are available automatically as getters and setters.
Saves a lot of code.
Yep. Although, and I haven't come across it yet, how to make them private. I'm not sure how you would do the other way.
Oh, yeah, because they're automatic.
Says they're automatically public, basically. So I'm sure there's a way, I just haven't found it yet. All right. We could do quickly a little bit of inheritance. So I have my animal class. I could also make a zebra class. So I have a class of zebra. And in Swift, that's not the same as Java. Java likes to have every class in its own file. Swift doesn't care.
Oh, nice.
And I can say, I want this to inherit from the animal class. And so that's how you make it inherit something. In Java, it's what? Do you remember?
The double.
No?
Extend.
Extends, the word extends.
Well,
And
I was gonna say the little double.
and then in Ruby, it's
Oh yeah, that's Ruby. Yeah.
It's like a hash rocket, isn't it?
It's
No?
that's what I was thinking.
it's
was
just a
Ruby.
less than sign.
It's two of them though, isn't it?
No,
Oh,
just
it
one.
didn't really cover a
Two.
lot of
I know. See the problem?
Oh, no, two, yeah.
Two is a push.
Yeah,
So,
right.
all right.
Right.
You don't have to show how or anything, but is it possible to put, like, if you had a really big class and you wanted it to have its own file?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can have as many files as you want, and it's probably a good idea to break these up. But I would probably make my subclasses in the same class file as my animals, just the way I would do it.
So
But
it'd inherit normally in another file though, just like that?
You would have to.
I
tell it to
could,
inherit.
yeah, I'd have to use this again, but it
Right.
finds all the classes
Right.
that are in the project.
So you wouldn't have to manually, like,
No.
type in
I don't have to import or
Okay.
anything because it's built, finds it in the project.
but if it was Ruby, you had to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can import.
So we can add a stripes property. We can have an init, which calls, that you would call the same way. You still want to pass on everything that an animal has, but you might also want to pass on stripes, which is an int. And then for that, we call super, same thing in the other languages. I want to call the super init method to create the object with these properties. Oops, wrong keyboard. And then set the local property with whatever was left. And it doesn't like my legs.
You can insert it in. So you have to super.
I don't see it. I don't see the problem there. Legs. Oh, I'm passing the values here. I have to do this. Legs. Aim. So this is, this value here is coming in. It's of type int, but that's the value I want to pass on when I call the init. So this is the label of the parameter, and this is the value coming in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so those variables would automatically be available?
Yes.
Because they were in the animal and then we inherited from
Yes.
the animal? Okay.
Yes. So I can create now a zebra instead of an animal. I can call it a zebra, and I pass it an additional stripes of 42 stripes. And now if I were to print my zebra, let's see what happens. So Zach has 4 legs and is whatever color.
But you didn't add the stripes to the description.
Right, so we need to override the description method, and I think that's
Inside the zebra class.
right.
Okay.
So I can have my own method, and I have to use the word override in Swift, and I give it the name of my method. And I'm going to return, again, the super description, and I can add stuff to it, like, and has stripes. So this is going to give me whatever this string gives me up here, plus this
What you add.
additional property here. So now if I run it again, and he's got 42 stripes now. So that's how we override methods from a parent class.
Is that, in your animal class, you define description, but you didn't try to override it? Because, so that wouldn't be why.
No, I don't
there's
think so.
actually no
You're thinking,
description.
yeah, I think that must have been just the name that I made up.
Okay.
It was a while back. I didn't make a note of that when I wrote it, so. It must be just my own description. One of the things I've read is that these don't come from a common base class. Swift doesn't have a common base class. So it doesn't have an automatic inheritance of some methods, which is different than most languages.
If you created a class in Ruby, you'd automatically get all
You
the.
get a bunch of stuff above it, yeah.
So that stuff isn't gonna be backwards compatible? Or,
What do you mean? With the different Swift language version?
yeah, so.
Nope.
Jeez.
Not in the early days. When you take a project that was written in Swift 1 and you convert it to Swift 2, it gives you all the errors that you have to fix. So it's not compatible.
Okay.
All right, that's enough.
That's by taking
You guys
away?
can go.